There are truths that do not announce themselves. They don't arrive with noise or force. They sit quietly, woven into the architecture of the world, waiting for someone to notice. For centuries, symbols have been placed before us. On ancient stone, within sacred geometry, even printed on the most mundane surfaces of modern life. We pass them every day. The square, the compass, the eye inside the triangle. And yet few ever stop to ask, why? Who placed them here? And more importantly, what are they trying to say? These are not remnants of a forgotten age. They are fragments of a language, one that doesn't speak to the rational mind, but to something much deeper, to the soul itself. This video is an invitation to learn that language, not intellectually, not by decoding information, but by learning how to perceive reality differently, through symbols, metaphors, and initiatory experiences that open the inner eye. We'll enter the world of the ancient builders, not to study architecture, but to understand the structure of consciousness they encoded into every design. Their legacy was never really about stone or ceremony. It was about transformation, internal, silent, and irreversible. Because once you see what these symbols are truly revealing, once you begin to understand what reality is actually built upon, you won't be able to return to the way you saw things before. The illusion of randomness begins to dissolve, and a pattern emerges, a sacred order behind the chaos. Stay with me. What you're about to discover isn't just a story, it's a blueprint, and it was written for you. Long before the modern world began to flatten mystery into data and silence into distraction, there were those who lived by a different rhythm. Builders, sages, initiates, people who understood that reality is not merely observed but constructed. They belonged to traditions that held one central truth. The outer world is a mirror of the inner one, and to shape one is to shape the other. Among the most enigmatic of these lineages were the Freemasons. Not the political caricatures or conspiracy, myths that cloud their name today, but the deeper current beneath it, the initiatory path of the builder. In truth, their temples were never about power. They were about process, and the process they followed was one of internal construction. Their tools were symbolic, meant not to build monuments but men. The compass, the square, the trowel, the plumb line, each one a metaphor for the refinement of the self. These weren't mere rituals, they were stages of psychological and spiritual transformation. And their goal was not salvation in the afterlife, but illumination in this one. At the heart of their system lies the idea of the inner temple, a sacred space not built with stone, but with virtue, discipline, and insight. Each initiate was not merely a student of knowledge, but a laborer of the soul, laying down invisible stones of character and intention. Their temple would never appear on a map, but its foundation was to be felt in every word spoken, every action taken, every truth accepted. This esoteric architecture was never exclusive to Freemasonry. Variations of it appear across time and culture, in the Hermetic principles of ancient Egypt, in the Platonic forms of Greek philosophy, in the chakra systems of India, and the mystical Sephirot of Kabbalah. Across all these traditions, a single message echoes. True transformation begins within, and symbols are the language that guides the journey. To the uninitiated, these symbols may seem ornamental, even meaningless. But to those who learn to perceive differently, they become maps, pointing not outward but inward. The eye inside the triangle isn't watching the world. It's waiting for you to notice that you are being watched by your own awareness. The stairway doesn't lead to heaven. It rises step by step through the layers of your own being, each one requiring a test, a trial, a transformation. And the builders of this path knew something else. Something that modern eyes often miss. That knowledge does not transform anyone. Only the experience of that knowledge, tested in darkness, refined by challenge, and integrated in silence, can change how one sees reality. This is why the Masonic journey begins not with revelation, but with blindfolding, because before you can truly see, you must first learn what it means to be blind. To walk the path of the builder is to commit to a work no one else can see, one that leaves no visible structure behind, yet transforms everything about the person undertaking it. What makes this path so different from the outer world's pursuit of success is its direction. It moves inward, not forward. Its goal is not achievement, but alignment, not construction of things, but construction of self. In the esoteric model inherited by the Masons and echoed across mystical systems, the human being is not born whole. We are fragmented, split between what we think, what we feel, and how we act. These three forces, thought, emotion, and action, are the building blocks of the inner temple. And just like columns holding up sacred architecture, if even one is out of balance, the structure cannot stand. Thought is the architect. It imagines, it conceptualizes, it questions. It can illuminate or deceive depending on how disciplined it is. When thought is scattered, we become lost in illusions, trapped in endless loops of analysis without clarity. But when thought is precise, rooted in discernment, it becomes a sword that cuts through confusion. Emotion is the mortar. It binds experience to memory, gives color to perception, and provides the energy behind every meaningful action. Yet emotion is also volatile. Uncontrolled, it spills over, floods reason, and destabilizes the foundation. But when cultivated with care, emotion becomes fuel, sacred fire that drives the will forward with empathy and passion. Action is the stone itself, the visible manifestation of what lives unseen within us. Every choice, every movement, every behavior is a declaration of what kind of temple we are building. Without conscious thought and purified emotion, action becomes reckless, reactionary, or hollow. But when aligned, it becomes sacred, a deliberate placement of meaning into the world. These are not poetic abstractions, they are functional truths. When a person begins to align thought, emotion, and action, they begin to embody coherence. And coherence is what gives the builder strength. Not physical strength, but the ability to remain centered in the midst of conflict, still in the presence of chaos, unshaken by illusion. This is where the ancient symbols return, not as decorations but as tools of alignment. The square becomes the inner compass of ethics. It demands that your actions match your values, that you live with integrity even when no one is watching. It is the test of the foundation. Is your life built on convenience or on truth? The compass measures your boundaries, your focus, your ability to walk the middle path between extremes. It asks whether your thoughts and emotions are calibrated, whether you have the discipline to say no when needed and the grace to remain open when challenged. And the eye, the all-seeing eye, stands not above you, but within you. It is the witness, the observer, that quiet presence that sees everything, every contradiction, every justification, every moment when you drift from what you claim to believe. Is not watching to punish. It's watching so that you can become aware of yourself. When these symbols are understood not as concepts, but as mirrors, reflections of your own inner mechanics, they begin to change something. Not the world, but the lens through which the world is seen. And when the lens changes, the world follows. Because what we call reality is not fixed. It is filtered through the architecture of our perception. And the moment that perception shifts, a new world begins to emerge. No path of transformation is complete without descent. The builder, like all true seekers, must pass through what the ancient teachings called the void, a space of darkness, uncertainty, and silence. It is the phase in which the old self begins to dissolve, but the new one has not yet taken shape. And in this space, the tools of the builder are tested not in theory, but in survival. Thought, once a guide, begins to fracture into doubt. Emotion, once sacred fire, becomes overwhelming. Action, without inner clarity, begins to sabotage rather than build. The temple wavers, not because it was false, but because the foundation must be tested. Every illusion must crack. Every part of the self that was built on ego, fear, or imitation must fall. In Masonic allegory, this moment is represented by the death of the builder, not literal death, but symbolic dissolution. It is the ego collapsing under the weight of its own falseness. It is the blindness before true sight. And it is necessary because it's only in the dark that the builder begins to see the difference between what is real and what is merely constructed. The ancient traditions never saw darkness as evil. They saw it as a womb, a sacred beginning point, a place where the soul is stripped of pretense and where the light, when it finally appears, means something. In this tradition, light is not the goal. It is the result of having endured, of having searched, of having refused to give up when everything fell apart. And when that light returns, the builder sees differently. Not just light as illumination, but as structure, as order, as intelligence behind the fabric of the universe. This is where the stairway appears, not a ladder to heaven, but a symbolic ascent through the inner layers of being. In Masonic imagery, it begins between two great pillars, one representing light, the other darkness. The initiate must pass between them, acknowledging both forces, integrating them, not favoring one over the other, but learning to work with both. Then begins the climb. Each step on this sacred staircase is a trial of understanding. Not intellectual understanding, but existential comprehension. In ancient systems, the steps represented disciplines of the mind and senses, grammar, logic, music, astronomy. But more than that, they were mirrors of internal refinement. Lessons in how to think, how to feel, how to perceive without distortion. Beyond these steps lie the final three: body, mind, and spirit. The Trinity found in every esoteric tradition. These are not separate compartments of the self. They are aspects of one temple, and the builder must learn to bring them into harmony. To act with the body, guided by the mind, illuminated by the spirit. At the top of the stairway, the final symbol awaits, the eye of providence, the all-seeing eye. But now, it's no longer watching from above. The builder realizes it has always been his own higher awareness, his own silent witness, calling him to remember who he truly is beneath the noise. He no longer seeks truth outside himself. He embodies it. And that changes everything. The inner temple was never meant to remain a metaphor. It is an active structure, alive, growing, responding to your choices every single day. And although the symbols may seem ancient or abstract, their purpose is direct, to awaken you to the architecture of your own mind, your own spirit, your own reality. This isn't about joining an order or memorizing symbols. It's about becoming aware, truly aware, of how you think, feel, and act. Because every moment you are building. When you hesitate before speaking, sensing that your words could build or destroy, that is the compass in your hand. When you feel a surge of emotion rise, and instead of reacting, you observe, you breathe and respond from a place of clarity. That is the square, keeping your structure aligned. And when you act with integrity, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one will notice, that is the sacred stone being laid. Quietly, invisibly, but powerfully. This is the practice. To observe your inner world as a construction site. To catch yourself when you're using crooked tools, justifying things you know are misaligned, speaking without purpose, feeling without grounding. To return again and again to the balance of thought, emotion, and action. Even small intentional choices become sacred when they are made consciously. Turning off a distraction to sit in stillness. Speaking one word less to create space. listening, truly listening, without waiting to reply. These are not just habits, they are forms of alignment, and alignment is the scaffolding of the inner temple. The darkness, too, is not to be feared, but welcomed. It reveals, it strips away. When life becomes uncertain, when your beliefs are shaken, when silence becomes uncomfortable, that is the temple being tested. That is the voice behind the symbols asking, is this real or is this borrowed? It is in those moments of pause, of solitude, of quiet confrontation with the self, that the builder's journey becomes real. Not dramatic, not performative, but true. And slowly the symbols stop being separate from your life. They begin to echo through it. You see the stairway and the choices you make, one after another. You feel the presence of the I each time you reflect before reacting. You carry the tools, not in your hands, but in the way you hold your presence, your word, your silence. No one will congratulate you. There are no titles. Only the stillness of something within you saying, this is the way. And each day you return to it, the temple grows stronger. The journey of the builder is not a story from the past. It is an ongoing initiation, unfolding quietly within those who are ready to see, not with their eyes but with the soul. Each symbol we explored is not meant to be worshipped, but embodied. The compass, the square, the stairway, the eye, they are reminders, markers of a deeper language, one that speaks not in sentences but in choices, in presence, in awareness. And once this language begins to emerge, reality no longer appears random. The patterns start to show themselves. The light and the darkness no longer oppose each other. They begin to dance. And you, the observer, the participant, the builder, step into your rightful place in the architecture of your own becoming. The world outside may remain the same, but how you move through it, how you see it, how you shape it, will never be the same again. This is the hidden truth they left behind. This is the gift behind the symbols. Not control, not knowledge, but clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes from silence, reflection, and sacred effort. If this message found you at the right moment, if something within you stirred, remembered, or awakened, then let this be the next stone in your inner temple. Return to this path, revisit these teachings, and know that you are not alone. We walk this path together, across time and silence, across symbols and stars. And if you feel called to keep building, to keep seeing more deeply, then subscribe and return for the next stone. The temple is rising within you.